That's actually a very interesting subject. Like when you hear something or see something, what's the context behind it? Right now, when you talk about crypto, you know all of the context around it. You have been in this for a long time. Things make sense when they say something. Someone outside of crypto will look at it like, what, what is what?
Yeah.
$60 million for a picture of a JPEG? That doesn't make any sense. Um, I saw another, I got another one of these connection things that I found very interesting last week, which was we used to learn a lot of history in school back home, and but they never put the context around things, right? They just say you in very dry Wikipedia format of this happened and then this happened and this. But something that always was on my mind, I didn't know about it, and it was like, oh, this makes so much sense. Was why did Iran make a new religion called Shia um, almost 500, 400 years ago? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, this country has no religious background. It was invaded by Arabs who were promoting Islam around the region, and then suddenly they become and make a new religion called Shia, and that becomes the whole tension for that era to today. And that conflict doesn't seem to go away. It's probably going to stay here for forever. Um, then I saw this piece that, oh, he created it during the same time that Protestants branched off Christianity. It was the same kind of era, same kind of mentality. And the reason was, I am by no expert know anything about Christianity and its branches, so you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But apparently, it was okay. We don't have to listen to the Pope anymore. We have our own thing. We have our own government, our own taxation system. We run our own stuff, and that was in the Nordic era. And he did the same thing. He was like, I don't have to give a shit about the central authority of Islam, which at the time was Mecca. It's like, fuck you guys. I'm going to have my own branch and I'm not going to pay you taxes. I have my own thing. And it was, that was the thing to do during that time, to create a branch so that you don't have to obey the authority. And in that context, it makes a lot of sense, similar to this 433, which makes sense in the context of what he was trying to do. But it looks like a troll. I don't know, the other guy doing it, I don't buy it.
Mhm.
Like, the whole like orchestra trying to that, to me, that those kind of things become the emperor's new clothes versus the original one had some story behind it.
Yeah, I think there's something very meta there where it's like I always like to learn history through the lens of intent, whereas history is usually taught um via the events. But that's not interesting to me. When I, just to use an example, I like to learn about U.S. history, mostly because I like to get Jeopardy questions right. But
But
it's really fun to try to think of the intent and try to piece what you kind of start um, creating as a narrative for yourself. You try to slot that in, like, okay, let's see if it fits now that we know these events occur or these events occur. So, and just somewhat related to this is I think that learning like this, learning history through the lens of intent is actually a really good way to learn. And I think math is a great subject to learn through history and intent. Like, for example, calculus. What was the intent behind that? The intent was, why is the moon not crashing into the earth, right? Essentially the rate of change, right? Like that's when you think about it from um like what was the intent or the context that kind of surrounds it, it actually makes it a lot more interesting of a subject.
I never thought about it that way. But yeah, I always wondered, like, when you learn math, like, what was this guy smoking? What kind of mushroom? Where did the guy out of nowhere he just invented this thing? It's like, no, there's a story behind it. He was trying to answer a specific question.
I think
Krishna.
having the why, of the specific events is crucial. I think that's kind of what you're getting at. Not to mention there's like a narrative, right? There's a narrative that goes through these events. Like you can draw a line, but it's not a straight line from World War One to World War Two, and how the world was changing throughout that time period. And you can map, Japan's kind of storyline and
Mhm.
obviously Germany and Russia and the U.S. like and all these pieces and yeah, how that was an inevitability, but it was like something was kind of boiling, but you need like it's irrelevant to talk about any particular date, in the absence of maybe the 10 years, front and back, like, both sides of it. Um, I don't know if you've ever listened to hardcore history,
Mhm.
but I remember like the lead up to, the beginning of World War One. It's like an hour long, like he's like setting up literally decades before, he talks about Franz Ferdinand getting shot or whatever. Uh, and it's like this, yeah, just a lot of different pieces and a lot of, countries struggling um, with issues of authority and who's governing their country. And, there's just a lot of civil unrest and it's all boiling together. And then finally it, erupts in this one act that whatever has a chain reaction. But yeah, to me, getting to that why usually requires there's some kind of narrative that brought us here.